Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. I want to talk to you today about the case for counseling by email. It's an under-considered approach, even if we weren't in the COVID era. Over the years, a small but growing percentage of my clients work with me partly or even mainly by exchanging emails. Typically, we'll have one or two sessions, regular sessions by, the normal kind of sessions by phone or Zoom, and then decide to try email exchange to supplement or even replace a session. Of course, sessions allow the visual and auditory interaction, and that's instructive and builds bonds between us. But also, email exchanges bring major advantages. Both the client and I have time to reflect on what to say. We tend to be more focused and concise in an email than in conversations, so the essence is more likely to emerge quickly, which saves the client time and money and makes it easier to review and remember major takeaways. We gain time flexibility. Sometimes the client or I needs to take maybe 20 minutes in crafting an email, other times just a minute or two. That stands in contrast with sessions where we need to fill an hour or at least a half hour. The exchange is asynchronous. We email whenever we want, so we can do it when we're motivated and it's convenient. For example, sometimes the client has just had an experience that he or she wants to share right away. And sometimes, I feel like responding immediately, or if not, it does feel important to follow the usual rule about email and respond within 24 hours. Another advantage of email exchange is that it provides a permanent record that the client and I can review. One other thing, the email exchange serves as the main part of my notes, which reduces my need to take notes. I still do write a bit in the client's file if there's something I don't want the client to see. For example, some hypothesis about what I think is going on beneath the surface, or what I might want to ask about next time. Now, colleagues have asked me about how I get paid for email exchanges. I keep track of the time that I spend, and when I've reached an hour, I charge the client's credit card at my usual hourly rate. Here's an example of an email exchange that I've just had with a client. I'll change irrelevant details to protect my client's anonymity. The client is a counselor who's having doubts about the field and her place in it. And here's the essence of our email exchange. I've simply distilled it, but it's word for word what our exchange was. Her first email in this exchange was January 6th, that's yesterday at 3:47 p.m. And she writes, I've been reading a book that discusses deliberate practice, that's a term that's used in that book, as being a time-efficient way to become an expert in a field. I don't know if reading textbooks is the best form of deliberate practice to reach my goal of being an adolescent behavioral disorders expert. What have you done, Marty, as, quote, deliberate practice for becoming an expert? And what would you recommend for my path to becoming an expert? Here's my response a few hours later, January 6, 6:07 p.m. 1. Read just the best few articles and one, maybe two highly rated books. Write nuggets you've learned in a Word file. Review them and perhaps later integrate them into an article or a talk. Doing that is a good way to learn something, is to teach it. 2. Watch a master practitioner or two in action. 3. Have them watch you. 4. Get lots of experience. Having what I call an experimental mindset. Try out strategies and tactics, revising them based on what's working for you and not, and what you find fun. And 5, teach others your best practices, whether speaking or in writing. Even if you're not yet a great public speaker, practice that. That's learnable and important for maximizing your impact as well as your own career advancement. And I conclude my email by saying, what's your honest reaction to all that? She responds immediately, January 6, 6:14 p.m. And I'm going to point by point, the 5 points I made, I'm simply going to read without reading her thing again because it'll be too long. Her 5 responses, her response to each of the 5 points. 1, she asks, how do you determine what are the best articles and books? 2, seems simple enough, that is, going beyond her professional association. She says, I can do that through seminars. Oh, no, number 2, I guess, was learning from seminars and such, from experts. She writes, seems simple enough. I can do this through seminars, such as my field's annual conference. 3, in response to my saying she should She should have others watch her. She writes, "Holy shit, that's terrifying." Number 4, when I suggested she try out experimental tactics using an experimental mindset, I don't mean experimental tactics, just tactics and strategies using an experimental mindset, she writes, "I don't have many defined strategies or tactics." And 5, with regard to public speaking, she writes, "I think that's the biggest challenge. I think we all fear stepping out and putting forth what we believe is our best information. I think everything I'd recommend is just common sense or just my own personal anecdotal experiences that might not have scientific backing." Here is my response. I responded almost immediately, 6:32 p.m. And again, I'm just going to go through those same numbers. Number 1, start by Googling. This is an attempt to find articles and books. Start by Googling terms that fascinate you or that offer needed advice. One possible example, oppositional behavior in adolescence. Or go broad and simply Google behavior disorders and look at 2 or 3 of the top few search results, not the articles, the results that most seem to intrigue you. Start then reading those 2 or 3 articles, and if one seems too basic, too advanced, or otherwise feels off base, stop. There's so many more articles available. In the process of reviewing those few search results or articles, you may come upon a search term that could trigger a more granular, on-target search term. Regarding a book to read, I just visited Amazon and searched on the term behavior disorders. 2 highly rated books emerged, and it's really easy to find them because Amazon lists them based on ratings and popularity. One of those books is more authoritative. It's called Casebook on Behavior Disorders, and the other seems friendlier. It's called Creative Interventions with Challenging Children. Number 2, don't limit yourself to your professional association. It can be a silo, an echo chamber. Certainly, consider trainings, articles, and conference sessions led by people respected in your field, but you might want to supplement with sources that are found outside the silo. For example, support groups for parents of behavior disordered kids might draw a wider range of speakers who have practical advice. Number 3, perhaps the most potent way to improve is to get feedback from clients and to be watched by a master. Asking for feedback in the moment or in a debriefing session afterwards. Just pick a mentor who's not just an expert, but kind. No need for the person to be harsh on you. After all, you're just at the beginning of your career journey. But remember, you'll survive even tough criticism. It might well be worth it. And if you reject the person's input, that's fine too. You needn't accept all input, of course, including mine. Number 4, use strategies and tactics that you get from this email, steps 1 to 3, as well as what's worked and not worked for you when you were teaching behavior disordered kids, which she was doing before. Experience will ever generate new and better strategies and tactics. And number 5, unfortunately, all social science fields aren't yet very scientific. Of course, you don't want to overstate certitude, but it's fine, for example, to say, in my experience, I've generally found, whatever. But yes, defer sharing your expertise until you've learned an article's worth or a session's worth of not common sense but worthwhile strategies and tactics to share. So I end my email by saying, what are your honest reactions to the above? She responds a couple hours later, 7:58 p.m., same last night. She writes, my honest thoughts. 1, I should refine my search to get, as you say, more granular. Granular in what I'm searching for, like behavioral disorders in adolescence. 2, at the moment, I feel most comfortable in the silo, but I'm working on branching out. I'll find others. Number 3, Marty, your response is something I'm working on. Since entering my 30s, I'm focusing more on sifting through the BS. I'm less likely to take what my professor said as received truth. I'm also trying to be more honest with my self-feedback. I do believe I'm my strongest critic. Number 4, I'll work on it. And that's, I guess, in terms of learning from experience. Experience is the best teacher. And I guess maybe, yeah. Okay. And number 5, she writes, how do you create so much content? Also, how do you not get bothered if someone is just I'll say an asshole in the comments? I know that they have the benefit of being anonymous, but as a speaker, it seems like you have nothing to gain and everything to lose. And then she ends by saying, the more I think about it, the more I believe that getting a PhD is part of my ultimate dream. I picture having my private practice on my own land in rural America. Clients come to me. I have the opportunity to meditate on my ideas as I write, and corresponding with you has forced me to envision my end goal. What do you think about my responses? Is how she ends. And the final part of this email exchange, at least for now, was this morning, January 7th at 8:34 a.m. And so here I'm going to reproduce the questions that the client listed in number 5, followed by my responses in italics, because number 5 was all she was asking about. She asks, how do you create so much content? And I write, the honest answer is it mainly comes naturally to me. I'm what they call ideationally fluent. But some of it is I go through life thinking about what could I write or speak about that's important and not obvious. She also asked, how do you not get bothered if someone's an asshole in the comments? I respond, I do get bothered, but I gain much more from the benefit of being able to do what I like, share my ideas, have lots of readers and viewers, so I feel I'm making a difference. She wrote, the more I think about it, the more I believe that getting a PhD is part of my ultimate dream. I picture having my private practice on my own land in rural America. Clients come to me. I have the opportunity to meditate on my ideas as I write. Corresponding with you has forced me to envision my end goal. My response, some dreams are worth pursuing, others not. It's important to evaluate clear-eyed whether the dream is worth the cost in time and money compared with what you otherwise could do. In doing that, consider the shoestring competitors, for example, being a consultant or coach rather than a licensed PhD psychologist. I would think that people would pay you to work one-on-one with their behavior disordered kid if you're good and if you market yourself reasonably. Of course, it would be harder to get enough clients if you do live in a rural area. That's the sort of work that's better in person. Let's hope COVID fades. And I end with the same thing. I say, what do you think about my... she asked, what do you think about my responses? And I wrote, I like them. I have found that email exchange is a productive and underrated form of mentoring. The takeaway, whether you are a helping professional or their client, you might consider adding email exchanges to your options, even after COVID fades. In any event, I'm Marty Nemko. I thank you for watching. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. And in any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.